on the 23rd December 2001. His murderers are yet to be apprehended till today. Western Spring Television identifies Bola Ige as a watershed character in history. The British Empire was the largest and the most powerful in the world. At its zenith, the empire embraced a quarter of the Earth's land surface and imposed her Imperial Majesty's rule on more than 458 million peoples across nations and continents. The empire took off with overseas possessions and trading posts established by England, spread over 3 million kilometers between 16th and early 18th century. Like previous empires, the British Empire began to crumble on its weight of overstretched territories and growing unrest in our various colonies. Today, the British Empire no longer exists. What is in place is the Commonwealth of Nations, a loose association of sovereign states which recognize the King of England as the titular head. Western Spring Television identifies the British Empire as a watershed empire in history. Dramatist, playwright, and icon of Yoruba thematic arts, Duro Ladipo was born December 18, 1931 in Osogbo, southwest Nigeria. His clergyman father christened him Timothy. His other names, Duro Dola, Duro Shomo, Duro Rike, reflected his personal and the circumstances that surrounded his birth. The legendary stage actor had in several public fora identified himself as one of the greatest abikus born to die in this world. Family records reveal how he was born and died 13 times. The intertwining names he bore thus lent credence to his spiritism. Duro Ladipo was one of the best known and world-acclaimed Yoruba dramatists to emerge from post-colonial Africa. His notable works Obakoso, Obawaja and Moremi took him beyond Africa to several parts of the world. By the time Duro Ladipo died on 11 March 1978, the Nigeria's first cultural ambassador had acquired a towering image as an artist whose works adorned the frontage of Trenchard Hall, University of Ibadan. Western Spring Television identifies Duro Ladipo as a major character in history. Funmilayo Ransom Kuti was an educationist and advocate of women's rights. She was recognized for her vitriolic comments against colonial policy of taxation as it affected the Nigerian women. Bere, as fondly addressed by her women followers, Funmilayo championed the initiation of universal adult suffrage, which gave an unprecedented leeway for women to contest elective offices and power to exercise voting rights. Married to a foremost educationist and teacher, Israel Oladotun Ransom Kuti, the first president of Nigeria Union.
Glad to be back. The midweek edition of Morning Spring coming to you live from Western Spring Television. How are we? Hope we all had a restful night. And it was for me. And that's why it's a little bit coming in about this time. Sincere apologies, but then the show is about to get started. And we will surely as always, make it a bumper package. TUNDE IDOWU is my name, at Irresistible TD on Twitter. And as I will always say, let's plug along. TUNDE IDOWU, not the Ekolo, whatever that comes in from here, right? So let's do this together as always. And I'd like to let you know that you can always get across to us. You can follow us on all our social media handles, on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube. We are live on Twitter as well, at Western Spring Television. Once again, at Western Spring Television. Let's tag along and let's get to do the needful. Quite a whole lot is what we will be looking at. And if you're joining me for the very first time, I'd like to welcome you most sincerely on behalf of the entire transmission team. And today we will, first of all, as always, kick off with the headlines making the rounds from the different dailies that I have with me. And in the course of the program, where my guests will be well seated, we will be looking at the statement credited to Reverend Father Matthew Kukah of the Sokoto Diocese. There saying corruption was large under the Buhari regime. How true is this? What are the facts? This actually transpired during the 60th anniversary of Areafe Babalola calls to Oba. So we will look at what former President Olusegun Obasanjo stated in the course of that program, and also look at what Bishop Matthew Kukah stated as well. So it's really causing quite a whole lot. And you've heard the aide to the former president saying they will not respond to what Reverend Father Matthew Kukah stated. What does this mean? Corruption seems to be endemic in our nation, Nigeria. And yesterday, it was an honor to have the ICPC resident commissioner in the house with me yesterday morning. And yesterday is always commemorated as the World Anti-Corruption Day, and looking at how well this can be curtailed. We need to really curtail this. And we will take a cue from what we discussed yesterday into what we will be looking at today on the show. Corruption, how endemic? What are the problems associated with corruption? How can it be nipped on the board at this point in time? Let's take a short break. When I return, we'll go straight into details, making the rounds from the papers, and then the guest segment will be here. It's still Morning Spring, live from Western Spring Television, channels 190 on the DTT. We'll be back.
Born Jeremiah Oyeni Obafemi on March 6, 1905, Obafemi Awolowo was a prime architect of Nigeria's independence and most consummate advocate of free education and social welfare in Africa's most populous nation. Erudite politician, thinker, and philosopher, Awo was fondly addressed by associates and political colleagues, brought his unique attributes to bear on governance in the defunct Western region. He administered as leader of government business and the premier between 1955 and 1958. Obafemi Awolowo's premiership witnessed pioneering in multi-sectoral policy initiatives and execution. The Western region under his administration paraded several enviable records. First television station in Africa, first real estate in Nigeria, first high-rise building in Nigeria, first modern sports stadium in Nigeria, first agricultural settlement in Nigeria, first modern civil service secretariat in Nigeria, and first industrial estate in Nigeria. His face is on 100 naira denomination as a mark of honor for his distinguished services to his country. Western Spring Television identifies Obafemi Awolowo as a major character in history. Dramatist, playwright, and icon of Yoruba thematic arts, Duro Ladipo was born December 18, 1931 in Osogbo, southwest Nigeria. His clergyman father christened him Timothy. His other names, Duro Dola, Duro Shomo, Duro Rike, reflected his persona and the circumstances that surrounded his birth. The legendary stage actor had in several public fora identified himself as one of the greatest abikus born to die in this world. Family records reveal how he was born and died 13 times. The intertwining names he bore thus lent credence to his spiritism. Duro Ladipo was one of the best known and world-acclaimed Yoruba dramatists to emerge from post-colonial Africa. His notable works, Obakoso, Obawaja, and Morimi, took him beyond Africa to several parts of the world. By the time Duro Ladipo died on 11 March 1978, Nigeria's first cultural ambassador had acquired a towering image as an artist whose works adorn the frontage of Trenchard Hall, University of Ibadan. Western Spring Television identifies Duro Ladipo as a major character in history. The Berlin Conference of 1884 defined the configuration of Africa, which hitherto existed as a continent of multiple kingdoms and empires under native rulers. The conference, otherwise referred to as Congo Conference, regulated European colonization and trade in Africa as initiated by German leader Otto von Bismarck. The Berlin Conference is often called the scramble for and partitioning of Africa, as each of the imperial powers carved separate portions of the continent for themselves without recourse to racial and cultural identities and differences. 137 years after the Berlin Conference was held, Africa remains a legitimized playground for European nations that sought to exploit its wealth and resources and manipulate its human capital to promote trades and investments of Western powers. Western Spring Television identifies the Berlin Conference as a major event in history. Fumilayo Ransom Kuti was an educationist and advocate of women's rights. She was recognized for her vitriolic comments against colonial policy of taxation as it affected the Nigerian women. Bere, as fondly addressed by her women followers, Fumilayo championed the initiation of universal adult suffrage, which gave an unprecedented leeway for women to contest elective offices and power to exercise voting rights. Married to a foremost educationist and teacher, Israel Oladotun Ransom Kuti, the first president of Nigeria Union of Teachers, Fumilayo Ransom Kuti was the mother of children who inherited her spirit of activism. Olufela and Be Ololari, the former, a renowned musical legend. She was the first female student of Abeokuta Grammar School and the first female to own and drive a car in Nigeria. The award recipient of Member of Order of Nigeria MON and Lenin Peace Prize, was born on 25th October 1900 and was killed on 13th April 1978 by rampaging road soldiers in Lagos. Western Spring Television identifies Fumilayo Ransom Kuti as a watershed character in history.
With us right here, it's still Morning Spring coming to you live from Western Spring Television. If you are joining us for the very first time, I'd like to welcome you most sincerely, and I want to thank you for being here with us. Let's go straight into details, making the rounds from the dailies that I have with me here, about 4 or 5 of them. And kicking things off first, from the pages of the Punch newspaper. The Punch newspaper has this big bold headline, and at this moment, it calls for great concern for those of us whereby we have kids abroad right now. It's really, really, really on the top side doing that. But let's look at what the pages of the paper says at this moment in time. The big bold headline there says Naira devaluation. Nigerian students face tough times in UK. Tuition soars by 60%. For those, if you have a kid in the UK, in one of the colleges, high schools in the UK at this moment in time, wow. I want to congratulate us because yeah, we know what it looks like. There are writers to that story here. It says new forex rate threatens overseas students, indebted scholars barred from classes. Parents beg federal government for concession as tuition. Living costs climb amid forex crisis. It is, before we probably take it over to what the students, Nigerian students are facing in the UK because of tuition fees. It is massive right now. It is massive. If this has gone up to about 60%, what we pay annually, and at this point in time, wow, we just we call on government, most especially the federal government at all, and the government at all levels, to see what can be done concerning this, because hey, it is really very, very difficult at this moment in time. If this has gone up 60%, wow. All right, well, we'll just hope we'll get this will be done real good. All right, at this moment in time. All right, and you can see there's a picture there, and the picture is of the Vice President Kashim Shettima receiving the leadership of the 10th House of Representatives yesterday, led by his Honorable Tajuddin Abbas at the presidential villa yesterday, Tuesday. There were some of the leaders of the 10th House of Representatives on a courtesy visit to Mr. Vice President yesterday. All right, let's come further down here. On the bottom strip of the Punch newspaper, police kill sit-at-home enforcers. IPOB declares 14-day lockdown. In the southeast these days, in the last couple of years, this sit-at-home thing is really causing a whole lot of mess in the southeast. Go to Aba, Onitsha, Axis, Enugu, Owerri. It's really something that calls for concern, and we don't know. We just hope the right things will be done. But looking at this story here says police kill sit-at-home enforcers. IPOB declares 14-day lockdown. Now, what is the fate of businesses in those states when you have things like this happening? It calls for concern, and we just hope the needful will be done. So that all this can be resolved and amicably, and then let's move on. The red banner on the Punch newspaper says panel storms automobile workshop, impound vehicles. You want to know why that happened? Please check it out from the pages of the Punch newspaper. FMDQ exchange launches derivatives market. You want to get to know what that means, please check it out as well. And we are moving to the top strip of the Punch newspaper. SEC investigates Otudeko's FBN share acquisition. As yesterday we brought you the story whereby EcoBank is saying, no, don't allow that to happen. But here we are. The Security Exchange Commission would they're actually saying at this moment that they will investigate Otudeko's FBN share acquisition. We'll keep our fingers crossed. We'll look at what comes out eventually from there, and obviously we'll serve you the details in the course of where we get what we need there. And just beside that story, PDP governors demand credible polls in Bayelsa, Imo, and Kogi. Looking forward to that as well. We are all calling for that to happen. Credible polls is definitely what we need. If you're taking us back to what the European Union came up with, it tarnishes the image of this great nation called Nigeria. But we just hope these states that will be having theirs in come November it can redeem the lost image when it comes to electoral process in Nigeria. And we just hope and we keep our fingers crossed towards this. All right. And let's look at the last story on the top strip of the Punch newspaper. APC crisis deepens as Omishore labels Lukman black sheep. Whoa. There seems to be no rest there. The ruling party really having not the best of times, but we just hope politicians, they know their ways around. This will be resolved and then things will move on properly. Okay. Let's go straight again to the pages of the Guardian newspaper. The Guardian newspaper is next that I have with me here. And this really calls for concern. That big bold caption there, you have pictures of some former governors, some ex-governors of different states, and saying, Akpabio, 13 senators to earn over 5.6 billion naira ex-governor's pension benefits. Where does this leave the common man? Those as well who have served this great nation of 35 years or reached the required age of 60 here. Where does this leave? Where is their pension? If 13 senators to earn that's about 13 ex-governors as well, to earn about 5.6 billion naira pension and benefits. Where does this leave the common man? Do they get their pensions as a when due? These are things that cause for concern, and it's really disheartening to hear all these ex-governors, that picking up this large amount of monies and at the detriment of the poorer civil servants who had served this great nation for quite a whole number of years, and still they don't get their benefits as at when due. I feel this is really not right. This is really not right. If just a section of people in the country can be getting all the largesse and they are all just enjoying every moment of themselves, and still we don't have this set of people, the common man. The common man, you see them, some of them can't pay for medical bills, they can't get drugs, they can't get the needed things, but all these ex-governors, ex-senators, ex-this, ex-that are really just enjoying the dividends alone of this great nation. This country has quite a whole lot that everyone should be able to get the needed things we want. But I don't know. I don't want to use the word greed and selfishness or just tilted towards just a section of the country. If this goes round, all this sit at home happening there, all this banditry, kidnapping, it will be very minute. But I'm really pained because looking at this humongous amount of money and how much are they paying pensioners? Let me move on here. Still with the Guardian newspaper. Hotel staff to die by hanging for killing manager, UK returnee. Hotel staff to die by hanging for killing manager, UK returnee. What goes around comes around. As much as it's not too great a news, but then why would I want to kill somebody? Why should you kill somebody? Wow. I don't know. Now that he's done that or she's done that, that kind of person, he or she's going to be killed now. Now, probably feeling he or she's going to be enjoying life, but no way. That person is gone now. But let me move on here quickly. FMDQ introduces exchange traded derivatives market, separating empowerment projects from First Lady's vanities. And Tinubu breaks silence, orders arrest of Plateau Benue killing masterminds. That's been something that has been terrible in the last couple of weeks in our dear nation, Nigeria. Very terrible. What's been happening in this states, Plateau, Benue, it's been terrible. The killings, no. I feel so sad about this. I've been able to visit this state and I see potentials to see what comes out around this great state. But here we are. When you have unrest, there can be development. And wow, very, very sad, very, very sad. Mr. President, now that you've ordered, we just hope the order will be followed and adhered to, and we get the perpetrators of these heinous tasks, heinous crimes arrested as well. Moving on here, Coalition 6 Rimi Gado sack revisits of 2006 report on Kwankwaso. Coalition 6 Rimi Gado sack revisit of 2006 report on Kwankwaso. You want to know more about that? Please, you can check out that story as well from the pages of The Guardian. And on the bottom strip, reps tackled banks over illegal deduction, indiscriminate charges. Have you done any transaction online, probably through your mobile app, and before you know it, the humongous amounts being charged if you have to use your own bank to send money to another bank? You see the charges? I honestly, it's really pathetic. It's really saddening that this kind of amount is being charged for transactions such as this. And I don't know. We just hope if the members of the House of Representatives really take a cue and look into this properly, we'll probably have a better time. We'll have better charges really now. But it's really sad. It's really sad, and it's really sad. I'm saying it because I've experienced it myself. But then, all right, moving on quickly. Daily Trust newspaper has quite a whole lot of other stories as well, and let's see what we've got from the pages of Daily Trust newspaper for today. All right. Yes, the big bold caption on the pages of Daily Trust newspaper: OPEC false calls against funding of fossil fuels in Africa. OPEC false calls against funding of fossil fuels in Africa. And a couple of writers associated to that story. We need it to drive industrialization. That's credited to the African petroleum producers. And NNPCL denies blocking oil and gas sector deals. Allays IOC's de-investment fears. All right, then, if you're interested in full details of that story, please check it out as well from pages of Daily Trust newspaper. And just below that, there is a picture of PDP governors after a meeting in Abuja yesterday. All right. We just hope they had a fruitful deliberation. And so below that same picture, insecurity rise up to occasion. PDP governors tell Tinubu, okay, yeah, just as every Nigerian is urging Mr. President as well to please rise up to the occasion. This is really not a very amazing moment right here. It calls for great concern, and Nigerians can't sleep with both eyes closed. But let's move on here. Tinubu orders manhunt for Plateau Benue killers. It's common to virtually all the papers. Man killed for stealing bread in Bayelsa. Why? And union petitions federal government over NSITF illegal recruitment unremitted deduction. Then let them bear the brunt of whatever comes out from that. And on the top strip of Daily Trust newspaper, EcoBank versus Otudeco, why we have not acted. That's credited to the Central Bank of Nigeria. Beside it, you have reps ask NUC to halt fees hikes in universities. Please. FMDQ exchange traded derivatives market goes live. Okay, that's all from the pages of the paper there, Daily Trust newspaper. And let's move on to the Nation newspaper. I'll just take some of the other stories that I have not probably read from there. And you have the big bold caption there, which has really caused quite a whole lot of talks and a little bit of anxiety right here in Nigeria, most especially in Ondo State. Adamu's incapacitation talk sparks a row over Akeredolu. And a writer there says, Ondo State PDP raises dust. Deputy Governor, I spoke with him on Sunday. All right. We wish Arakunri Rotimi Akeredolu speedy recovery and the best in health there. On the top strip of the Nation newspaper, VAT likely to go up. Naira sells at 788 Naira to $1 in official parallel market. 788 Naira. Wow. And just below that, and there is a story just beside that picture there. Intercepted vessel destroyed in Delta with 150,000 MTs of crude worth $86.8 million. Now, that is where I find it a little bit baffling, and because why? Yeah, this vessel has been intercepted. You probably must have arrested some of the crew members, people who were on board of that ship. You had a ship laden with about 800,000 liters of petrol. And the petrol, looking at it, it says it's worth about $86.8 million. That's humongous. That's large. Then you decided to destroy that ship. I feel there are other ways to be able to impound the ship. You could probably sell it off or things like that at a very low price rather than destroy it. It could be worth using for somebody else, but destroying it, well, I don't know. Best they understand. They understand. Yeah? Let me come further down. Senate to investigate 9.3 trillion naira spent on petrol subsidy in 30 months. And a writer to that story says NNPCL spent 100 billion naira monthly, 400 billion naira monthly. Oil giants soon to go public. 100 billion naira, 400 billion naira monthly on fuel subsidy. In 30 months, we're looking at about 9.3 trillion naira. I don't know. It's really, when you hear all this, you feel, how did this money, what were they used for? And I don't know, to quell the subsidy, the impact of the subsidy. Are we really being able to get that? Is it happening? It's really amazing. And Senate set up 7 ad hoc committee, okay, and Tinubu sad over Plateau Benue killings, just like every other person as well. And just as the other newspapers have stated, Mr. President, there is a big task at hand that must be resolved. Generally in Nigeria, well, looking at what's been happening in Plateau and Benue State, we appeal that something drastic should be done. And moving to the top strip, the top strip of the Nation newspaper for today has this story. Border reopening plan in progress, says Customs CG. We'll keep our fingers crossed. We'll look at, will that be worthwhile? The last administration shut all the borders, but still smuggled goods still get into this country. Now, if it's opened, we hope things will just be better, and the prices of goods and commodities will reduce. No minister list yet, says APC. And what's in circulation? Fake, obviously. I saw that story as well yesterday, day before yesterday, and I was like, wow, it had quite a whole lot of names with their portfolios there. But fake news is something that it's very, very cumbersome here in Nigeria. We need to get verifiable stories right here from Western Spring Television, because why? We say it as it is. And just beside that story, Mustafa bin Tube is Jai's Bank board chairman. Okay, how Wike helped Tinubu to win Rivers by Okocha. You want to know more about that? The stories are there on the pages of the Nation newspaper for today. All right, when we come back, after we take a short break, we will definitely be talking about what the Bishop of the Anglican Diocese, Sokoto Cathedral, said, Reverend Father Matthew Kukah. He is a man whereby he never stops talking, and when he speaks, we tend to always, everybody tends to listen to what he says because he's always factual about what he has said. And in the course of the week, he came up during the 60th anniversary of Afe Babalola being called to bar 60 years ago, and that's massive, man. You heard him say the past administration, heavily led by former President Muhammadu Buhari, was very corrupt. What were those statements credited to Reverend Father Matthew Kukah? We will look into that. We will see what it looks like. We'll talk about it in the course of this program. Please stay with us.
Sports is a culture on its own. It has its own language, its own people, with their own way of life. The world of sports is never void of actions, stories, dramas, and scandals. I guess you need a sports show that can walk the walk and talk the talk.
On this show, we answer all your sporting questions. The whens, the whys, the wheres, and even the what ifs. Sports Spring is that show that will give you that new lease of life you've been looking for in sport journalism. Join me, Joseph Atewe,
And your sports Amazon, Nengi Ernest.
on this station, Western Spring Television, channel 190, only on Star Times.
Let's talk sports. Let's speak the most universal language of the world.
The Berlin Conference of 1884 defined the configuration of Africa, which hitherto existed as a continent of multiple kingdoms and empires under native rulers. The conference, otherwise referred to as Congo Conference, regulated European colonization and trade in Africa as initiated by German leader Otto von Bismarck. The Berlin Conference is often called the scramble for and partitioning of Africa, as each of the imperial powers carved separate portions of the continent for themselves without recourse to racial and cultural identities and differences. 137 years after the Berlin Conference was held, Africa remains a legitimized playground for European nations that sought to exploit its wealth and resources and manipulate its human capital to promote trades and investments of Western powers. Western Spring Television identifies Berlin Conference as a major event in history. James Ajibolaige was a lawyer who obtained his first degree in classics from Nigeria's premier University of Ibadan. Born September 13, 1930, the orator and the polyglot spoke impeccable English, French, Igbo, Hausa, and Yoruba languages. His fine diction placed him among classical orators and public speakers like Cicero, the Roman orator. This attribute earned him the prefix Cicero of Esauke. He authored Kaduna Boy, an autobiography, Detainee's Diary, Constitution, and The People, among 6 other books. Bolaige was a colorful politician, elected governor Oyo State in 1979 and appointed a federal minister in 1999. He was a pioneer founder of Afenifere, the Yoruba social, cultural, and political group. He invested his political sagacity to propel the group to the height of political leadership and decision-making in the southwest of Nigeria. Bolaige was assassinated on the 23rd December 2001. His murderers are yet to be apprehended till today. Western Spring Television identifies Bolaige as a watershed character in history. The British Empire was the largest and the most powerful in the world. At its zenith, the empire embraced a quarter of the earth's land surface and imposed her imperial majesty's rule on more than 458 million peoples across nations and continents. The empire took off with overseas possessions and trading posts established by England, spread over 3 million kilometers between 16th and early 18th century. Like previous empires, the British Empire began to crumble on its weight of overstretched territories and growing unrest in our various colonies. Today, the British Empire no longer exists. What is in place is the Commonwealth of Nations, a loose association of sovereign states which recognize the King of England as the titular head. Western Spring Television identifies the British Empire as a watershed empire in history. Dramatist, playwright, and icon of Yoruba thematic arts, Duro Ladipo was born December 18, 1931 in Osogbo, southwest Nigeria. His clergyman father christened him Timothy. His other names, Duro Dola, Duro Shomo, Duro Rike, reflected his persona and the circumstances that surrounded his birth. The legendary stage actor had in several public fora identified himself as one of the greatest abikus born to die in this world. Family records reveal how he was born and died 13 times. The intertwining names he bore thus lent credence to his spiritism. Duro Ladipo was one of the best known and world-acclaimed Yoruba dramatists to emerge from post-colonial Africa. His notable works Obakoso, Obawaja and Moremi took him beyond Africa to several parts of the world. By the time Duro Ladipo died on 11 March 1978, the Nigeria's first cultural ambassador had acquired a towering image as an artist whose works adorned the frontage of Trenchard Hall, University of Ibadan. Western Spring Television identifies Duro Ladipo as a major character in history. Fumilayo Ransom Kuti was an educationist and advocate of women's rights. She was recognized for her vitriolic comments against colonial policy of taxation as it affected the Nigerian women. Bere, as fondly addressed by her women followers, Fumilayo championed the initiation of universal adult suffrage, which gave an unprecedented leeway for women to contest elective offices and power to exercise voting rights. Married to a foremost educationist and teacher, Israel Oladotun Ransom Kuti, the first president of Nigeria Union of Teachers, Fumilayo Ransom Kuti was the mother of children who inherited her spirit of activism. Olufela and Be Kololari, the former, a renowned musical legend. She was the first female student of Abeokuta Grammar School and the first female to own and drive a car in Nigeria. The award recipient of Member of Order of Nigeria MON and Lenin Peace Prize, was born on 25th October 1900 and was killed on 13th April 1978 by rampaging road soldiers in Lagos. Western Spring Television identifies Fumilayo Ransom Kuti as a watershed character in history. This iconic African presents the narrative of a man destined to exert an imperishable global influence in Western education. His was a story of a freeborn, captured and sold into slavery. He was born in Oshogun, a native Yoruba village near Iseyin in Okeogun axis of southwest Nigeria. Samuel Ajayi Crowther was the foundation student of Fora Bay College, Sierra Leone, the foremost university where the pioneer set of native Africans were educated. Samuel Ajayi Crowther's greatest contribution to humanity was his translation of the Holy Bible into the Yoruba language. The man who authored the Yoruba dictionary was also credited with the translation of English classic hymns into Yoruba and the Ekwere languages. Samuel Ajayi Crowther's private residence in Badagry, incidentally the first story building in Nigeria, is an Akaba museum dedicated to the memory of Africa's first bishop. Western Spring Television identifies Samuel Ajayi Crowther as a watershed character in history.
Turn it up! It's the Wild Wild West, and Western Spring Television is pulling out all the stops to make sure that you don't miss out on every of the fun and happenings around you. Yup, we've got you covered because your girl got all the juiciest tidbits and entertainment news from around the world. Cross over to the chocolatey side of entertainment. Join me, Chocolate Cassie, on Eccentric as we take you into every bit of the juiciest news, fashion, music, movie updates, and other trending conversations. Together on the show, we'll get personal with your favorite celebrities via phone call, Zoom, or even live here in the studio. Eccentric will be shown on your TV screen on Western Spring Television, channel 190, only on StarTimes.
Evelyn Ohiole,
Hi.
King Eve. How are you today?
I'm good, I'm fine, I'm alive.
I really feel like she's not giving the right answer to the question. When one asks you, how are you? And you said, you're saying, I'm alive. It's very annoying, seriously. How are you? I'm fine. I feel I'm fine will be the right answer instead of I'm alive. Not that I asked you if you're dead before.
Go and check all these 14-year-old, 15-year-old, 16-year-old, everybody, they are extraordinarily sexually active.
I feel is being unnecessarily hyper when it comes to the issue of sex, because we talk about other topics and it feels so reserved. It really doesn't have anything much to say when it comes to other stuff. But when it's the issue of sex, I believe it's being unnecessarily hyper. That's when I have to pick an issue with him. I mean, it's just being unnecessarily there when we're talking about sex. Just like a child, his mom just got him his favorite chocolate or ice cream, very happy, doing as though if he doesn't have sex for a day, he's going to die.
When it comes to finance, women also support their husbands financially. You need me emotionally. You need me spiritually.
Cassie is an amazing person, but I hate the too much attaché to that gender. I need you spiritually, I need you mentally. I can get these things anywhere with money. If you go by the topic was, who does marriage favors the most? I know how many jobless women they marry every Saturday. They are saying it favors you, favor. I the vex so.
Growing up, when I was in the world, we've heard of
Who are you now?
Well, MC Too Much said, he likes saying when I was in the world. And the last time I checked, well, it looks a bit innocent, facially, but deep down, is actually out of this world. We're all in the world now. As long as you're alive, you're in the world. So, MC Too Much, I beg when you talk about that. I don't want to hear that. Next time you talk about I kiss my words.
I think I have a problem with you saying ladies are champion, and that's the problem. Always trying to attach so much importance to that gender.
It's giving insecurity, it's giving low self-esteem, it's giving a blatant display of egoism. Because at the end of the day, a man who is secured in his worth, a man who is confident of who he is, will not really be disturbed as to whether women are being referred to as champions or not. I mean, at the end of the day, Joseph's a really great guy, but whether he likes it or not, women are champions.
Atótó arére.
Kò ṣeé má gbọ́ ìròyìn.
Gbẹ̀bíró bílẹ̀mọ̀dàwòrò kọ́ọ̀dẹ̀ má dìbò sí. Aṣígbé ètò yìí kalẹ̀ láti lè jẹ́ kóníkálùkù fi ṣe òdiwọ̀n ìdílé wọn. Òtítọ́ ọbẹ̀ ni pé kò sí ìdílé kan tí ò ní ìpèníjà àti ẹ̀. Ṣùgbọ́n àtẹ́lẹwọ́ ẹni la fi ń tún ẹni ṣe. Àti oníkálùkù bá kọ sí ìpèníjà náà ìdílé yóò sọ bí ìdílé yóò ṣe rí. Gbẹ̀bíró káfinúkonú.
Sports is a culture on its own. It has its own language, its own people, with their own way of life. The world of sports is never void of actions, stories, dramas, and scandals. I guess you need a sports show that can walk the walk and talk the talk.
On this show, we answer all your sporting questions. The whens, the whys, the wheres, and even the what ifs. Sports Spring is that show that will give you that new lease of life you've been looking for in sport journalism. Join me, Joseph Atewa,
And your sports Amazon, Nengi Ernest.
on this station, Western Spring Television, channel 190, only on Star Times.
Let's talk sports. Let's speak the most universal language of the world.
Tunde IDOWU is back, and thank you for being here. And it's still Morning Spring coming to you live from Western Spring Television, channel 190 on the DTT. Super excited to know that you're there in the midweek edition of the program. Thank you most sincerely. Let's get to the business. On the other side of the business, my guest is live on Zoom, and we want to look at the statement credited to the Bishop of the Catholic Diocese of Sokoto, Reverend Father Matthew Hassan Kukah, during the 60th anniversary of call to bar of Are Afe Babalola in Ado-Ekiti about a couple of days ago. And obviously you had quite a whole lot of eminent personalities. Former President Olusegun Obasanjo himself was there. But we want to take a cue from what the Reverend Father Matthew Hassan Kukah stated, that Nigeria witnessed the ugliest corruption under Buhari. Yesterday was the World Anti-Corruption Day. and which is commemorated every 11th of July every year. And my guest, the ICPC Resident Commissioner, Osun State Chapter, was here, and he laid to bear quite a whole lot of things we need to know concerning these and how we can stem the board at that moment in time. But it's a story credited to Matthew Kukah that is really being felt. Nigerians are talking about it, and I want to just take this opportunity to ask, and let's see how we can dissect this story properly. I will be reading quite a whole lot of things as stated by Reverend Father Kukah. Joining me online right now at this moment in time. I know I have to disturb him because he's such a very busy man. Live on air at this moment in time, I have a veteran journalist, a civil rights activist, a policy analyst, and a social critic. Comrade OLOGUN is live on the air with me this morning, and thank you for joining me, comrade, and good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me once again.
Yesterday, let me take us back a little bit. Yesterday was commemorated, as always, every July 11th as a World Anti-Corruption Day, looking at so many things that is pervasive in the anti-corruption fight. And just as I said, I had the resident commissioner for ICPC in the house yesterday, Mr. ADEMILUYI, and we discussed extensively as to what the ICPC is doing, how corruption has beaten into the hearts of virtually every soul in Nigeria these days, and the drive to really bring this to the lowest ebb is something this commission is really working on amongst other commissions. But in the course of this week, we had the 60th anniversary of call to bar of Are Afe Babalola in Ado-Ekiti. Was it yesterday or the day before yesterday? But the point is, the man who made the speech there, one of the speeches that was made there on that day, is the Bishop of the Catholic Diocese of Sokoto, Reverend Father Matthew Hassan Kukah, saying Nigeria witnessed the ugliest corruption under Buhari, and it's really generating quite a whole lot. What do you make of that statement credited to Reverend Father Matthew Kukah?
Well, Reverend Father Kukah remains one of the most prosperous voices against bad governance and corruption and its life in the country. And when you were talking about one man who continually puts government on its toes, then of course you are referring to Reverend Father Kukah. He doesn't care who's off the dot. He picks the truth to power as it should be, and we must give it to him. And then it's also important to say that the choice of where that event was made was a very auspicious one, because in recent time, someone I so much respect and defer to as a mentor, has also not mind who's off the dot. He has also spoken power, having truth to power. He has also given us the reason to have a second thought about issues as a nation. He has provided leadership as another statement. So the combination of the choice of place where that statement was made and the statement by whom it is made is both spectacular. Having said that, we look at the issues. It's important to quickly say that people should be reminded that when we talk about corruption in governance, we are not talking about just investment of money. When you talk about nepotism, when you talk about putting rank peg in square holes, when you talk about being suppressed by not allowing to get to the peak of their career, by not allowing to reach their destiny by virtue of the profession of the job they have chosen, these all put together are some of the things that we explain as corruption and not just investment of money. And I think Reverend Father Kukah haven't said anything that is unknown. It's just the truth that a number of people do not want to hear. We have never had it so low under any government like we had it under the immediate past President Muhammadu Buhari. And like I often say, I hope that Nigeria do not go lower than Buhari has taken us. Because any attempt to go lower than that standard, I doubt if the destination will exist. We have never had president as docile. We have never had the president as uninspiring. We have never had the president as unaware as the Buhari. Someone under whose watch some magnanimous corruption is being committed, and he pretends like he is not aware, like he doesn't know, like he doesn't see, while allowing people under him to feed fat on the economy of the nation. I can begin to count some of the things that perhaps Reverend Kukah was trying to refer to. Remember the grass cutting contract under his former the former chief of staff to the president. We have not forgotten so far the issue of corruption that surrounded the certificate forgery, the forgery of Kemi Adeosun, the former minister of finance under Buhari. We have not forgotten so far the mismanagement. Partial loot that was attributable to government under Muhammadu Buhari. We have not forgotten the nepotism that greeted the 80th generation of Buhari, where once you are not a full animal, you are irrelevant. We have not forgotten so soon how much of the basement came to the civil service, where we have people who are not civil servants heading agencies of government. We have not forgotten that the immediate IGP retired long before he was removed from office. So we had a civilian retired police officer as IG. We have not forgotten how we have a nepotic head of the customs service who happens to be a former general, a friend of the president. We have not forgotten how the head of the immigration service was given extension of office 2 years after his retirement. You can go on and make references to some of these unwholesome actions, unwholesome events that transpired under the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari, that all accrue to be stamped as corruption. So I want to agree firmly with the position of Reverend Kukah that the highest corruption was seen under a Buhari-led administration, and I sincerely hope that as a nation we don't go that route any longer. I sincerely hope that we don't go lower than the standards that Muhammadu Buhari has lowered integrity of this nation. Let's we do not have a nation going forward.
But the point here, looking at one of the statements here said, while clarifying that the trend didn't start under Buhari, and because it's been something that's been there, but just as you rightly stated, it was very, very pervasive. It was very glaring during the last administration. And Reverend Kukah has been talking about this before now. With the present government in place now, still from the same political party, what do you think this party, this present administration should look into to be able to curb that spread of corruption at this moment in time?
Like I said clearly, corruption does not have to do with investment or investment of funds alone. And if you ask me, the present administration of our President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is perhaps almost throwing the parts of nepotism, just like it was seen under Buhari. If you look at the appointment since his inception of office, it's been more of Yoruba. At the time we are doing an aggregation, and out of about 46 appointments that I have made so far, about 30 of such appointments have been of Yoruba extraction. We should understand that this is not government of Lagos State. This is not the government of the Southwest region. This is the government of a country called Nigeria, where I hold the belief that there is no part of the country where competence cannot be found. So President Bola Ahmed Tinubu needs to be very careful so that he does not put the part of Muhammadu Buhari in terms of nepotic appointment into offices. There is no part of the country where competence cannot be found. So he should ensure that he does not go ahead in this track by appointing only people of his tribe into offices, lest he also be accused of corruption without even necessarily having to mismanage funds, as the case may be.
Now, I want us to look at. Now, there must be sanctions and consequences for those who go against our democracy and the Constitution that should land them probably in jail or thereabout. But these things didn't even happen. We had just probably a very minute set, and the minute sets came from the opposition party, whereby they were arrested. We can name names and what have you. But in the ruling party, it was something that, look, if you want to get out of any predicament you are in, and if you are still in the opposition, just come to the ruling party, and then the cases are gone. We have quite a whole lot of them who left the opposition party to come into the ruling party, and every case against them now, it's been swept under the carpet. How can all these anomalies be corrected?
It is very quite unfortunate that we live in a country where there are no consequences for action. And I've often said this, that until we begin to put commensurate punishment to action and inaction taken, then we are not serious as a nation to move from where we are to where we should be. We have lived in a country so long where everything is done on what we call the party level. You can imagine a statement credited to the former chairman of the APC, Adam Oshiomhole, when he said that the moment you cross carpet to APC, your sins are forgiven and you are a saint. That shows the mindset of those that we appoint into offices. When you talk, or when civil society organizations or individuals call for probe or call for investigation of past administration, people will tell you, you want to unearth what needs to be buried. As a nation, nothing needs to be buried. As a nation, everyone that is privileged to hold office, political or otherwise, or administrative, has a responsibility to us as the people to give an account of the offices being held. So it is not out of place that questions should be asked. It is not out of place that inquiries should be done. It is not out of place to institute probe of previous administration. But what do we have in our leaders? They see opportunity of coming into office as at their own time, their own opportunity for themselves and their cronies to steal, to maim, and to also approve to themselves what is our common patrimony. So what often happens is that they become so afraid, they become so incompetent, they become so wearied when it comes to questioning, inquiring, or probing an issue before them, with the fear that if they do that to the government before them, the same thing will be extended to them. We cannot continue to do this part as a nation. That is why Serap and some other organizations are asking. For example, all the Abacha loans that have been repatriated to the country from the days of Abacha till now, these leaders should be called into account. What did you do with that money? If you claim you paid debt, you claim you did project, it's simple. The double says that a clean conscience, fear no accusation. If you have done rightly, come to account. Everyone appointed to the office should be able to come to equity. And until we institute the nature, the character, or the needful trend of asking questions, of instituting probe, and asking questions for people who have held offices before now, we will continue this path. People come into office, steal the nation dry, steal our common patrimony, and they go away with it because they know that the government coming after them will not have the guts to act. Especially when the person that left the office is from the same party as the case may be, with the one taking over office, he turned out to be a party thing, and the people under the cabinet that is brought on, even when there are demands for such. So as a nation, we need to institute, if possible, make it legal, make it constitutional, that every government that leaves office should return for accountability. It should be made to answer questions pertinent to our growth. If we don't know where we are coming from, there is no way we can define our future. And the best way to define our future, economically and politically, is to have our history and hold people accountable for reasons of things they have done or failed to do while they are in offices.
Looking at the antecedents of former presidents Muhammadu Buhari, while even we've always known him as one very tough disciplinarian, someone who doesn't care, is not so affluential, he's just him and his very easygoing kind of lifestyle. And most Nigerians thought that with that kind of person coming into power, things must change, things will change, he will get this right, he will get that right. But you and I, it was glaring that, hey, what thrived under his administration calls for concern. Corruption at the highest level was just a freeway. We had people cutting grass for millions of naira and nothing was done. We had monies being blown away by snake, being taken away by monkeys, all this and nothing. We had the accountant general who went away with over how many billions? Just returned about 30 billion in over 100 billion, and nothing was done. Nothing was done. Now, where did former President Muhammadu Buhari get it wrong?
President Muhammadu Buhari did not get it wrong. We at Nigeria got it wrong because the package Buhari was presented to us. The Buhari that was presented to us is not the Buhari that we know. I have had the privilege of working very closely with former President Muhammadu Buhari. Even before he became president, I was very close to him in his aspiration of wanting to be president in 2011 when he contested the ticket of the presidency with Pastor TUNDE. I was in the game. I was watching. So I had the privilege of one-on-one interaction severally with the Buhari. So when he came back in 2014, towards the 2015 election, and they were presenting to us the Buhari that is different from Buhari that I know that the nation was going into crisis. Because when you present Buhari to us as a very tough man, he has never been one. Even in his days as the military head of state, we should not forget that he was more of a president. The one that had the action was the day ago in deputy. The same thing happened in his return in democracy. The only time we've seen action under the administration of our president Muhammadu Buhari just passed was the few times that Oshibanjo became active president in his absence. Buhari is a man under whose watch so much crime gets committed, and he pretends like he's not aware. He pretends that he does not know. So for me, Buhari has not been untrue to himself. He has been who he is. We are just the one that we had undue expectation of him. We're just the one who have been lied to during the campaign season. The different Buhari was packaged and given to us, and we had so much expectation. So for me, I was not disappointed. It was true to type. The Buhari that I knew pre his emergence as president. So I don't believe that anything went wrong with Buhari. The people that had problem was you and I at Nigeria who were made to think what should not have been.
Now let's still look at some of the major troubles that came up during that period, that administration of former President Muhammadu Buhari, and looking at what Reverend Father Matthew Kukah Hassan stated here. This is not the first time this Reverend Father and so many others have come out to talk about this and that and this. Was it an aspect whereby you had higher grounds, higher authority that's made former President Muhammadu Buhari to be curtailed, that he couldn't take up the gauntlet of the commander-in-chief at that moment? Were there cabals? Do you think there were people, there were certain set of people who gave orders? That's why all this went just the way it went.
No, I disagree with you. No man gives what he doesn't have. There's a difference between capacity and political will. In the case of former President Muhammadu Buhari, he lacked the two, he lacked both. Muhammadu Buhari lacked capacity. Because you judge a man by his achievements. Ever since Buhari left as Ministry Head of State until his return in 2015 as civilian president, the question is, what were his achievements? How many books were written by him? How many lectures were delivered by him in different parts of the world? How many countries of the world and organizations of the world gave appointment to Buhari to do one, two, or other things? How many organizations did he start? How many nations did he offer advices to? He retired as Ministry Head of State to Daura, and between the time he retired as Ministry Head of State until the time he returned as civilian president, he was non-eventful. No book written, no biography, no lecture, no thesis written. He didn't continue, he didn't acquire more knowledge academically, he didn't acquire any training. He just started back venturing to cows. And you brought the same man back years after without any development. So, and you expect him to perform wonder. That's why I say a man cannot give what he does not have. So Buhari lacks capacity all along. So expecting him to deliver on capacity that he has not acquired was expecting a cow to give birth to a goat. But then the political will. The life ambition of the President Muhammadu Buhari was to become president. And he didn't hide it. And the moment he became president, his personal life ambition was fulfilled. So whatever happened under him was none of his business, because he lacked the will, he lacked the political will to turn around the fortune of the country. Because as far as he's concerned, he wanted to be president, which was his life ambition. He has achieved it. And this goes to us as Nigerians. that we need to be very careful in our impeachment process. We need to be very careful about who we elect into office. We should not be tools in the hand of these people to acquire or to fulfill their life ambition and dreams. What is important to us, or what should be the goal for us in the election of officers, either at the state level or the federal level, should be the capacity. When you have a man who within a period of 10, 15 years has given no improvement to his own life, academically, socially, intellectually, and what have you, is a pointer to the fact that such a person lacks capacity. And it should be a reason why we should make sure that whoever is elected into office are people that have shown capacity over time, and not just some docile individuals that are after power for power's sake.
Comrade, let's look at the judiciary and probing, trying, probably personalities such as former President Muhammadu Buhari or former President Olusegun Obasanjo or former President Goodluck Jonathan. All this, looking at what happened in the U.S. now, whereby former President Donald Trump was tried, he was probed and things like that. What makes it difficult right here? If you're not in the if you're not in the ruling party, if you're probably somebody on the other side, you probably will be harassed and this and that. EFCC will come after you, DSS will come after you, and that about. But when we have issues such as this, I remember that after just a few days after former President Muhammadu Buhari left office, one of his aides came out to say nobody's stopping President Bola Ahmed Tinubu from not probing Buhari. But, you know, these are just the stories we had. If such a thing could have happened in the U.S., where former President Donald Trump was tried and brought to court and this and that, what makes it difficult here in Nigeria? If certain things are not right, we feel certain things are not right, why can't they be invited?
Well, a lot of people will tell you that can only happen in the U.S., but I disagree with you that even in Africa, the factor of accountability is becoming right. Yeah. We saw what happened in South Africa. The former president of South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa, Jacob Zuma. I think he's still in jail or he has not released from jail. We can also refer to Kenya, we can refer to Ghana, where they are leaders of the call to accountability. So the problem with us from here is two. Number one is our value system. Number two is the system of governance itself, the system of administration. We are so much or not formally be made to believe that a man that has served all of the nation owes no explanation. And I disagree. If you were given the opportunity to serve, we did not beg you to serve us. You begged for this job. You campaigned for it. You asked us for a more. So if you spent 4 years or 8 years in office, as Nigerians, we have the right to demand accountability from you. We have the right to demand from you how were we led. We have the right to demand from you how did you manage the resources that are credible to you under the few years that you were able to govern us as a people. But in Nigeria, when you ask questions, they see you as opposition. When you ask questions, they see you as against the government. When you make demands, they see you as being used by one group of people or by the religion and what have you. We need to change some of this orientation as a people. We need to improve on our value system. Accountability and transparency in governance is a virtue that we cannot afford to look over. And it has to be embedded in our children from school, that they have the right not just to lead, they also have the right to call for people that are in position of power. They have the right to call them to accountability and virtue. So we need to ensure that our value system is improved in such a way that accountability is seen as a virtue. So that's number one. Number two is our value, our political value, which we call the system. We have a system in this country where anything goes. You can imagine when you get into an office and you demand a file and they tell you the file is missing. How dare you say a file is missing in some period country of the world? No heads get rolled over. Who was in charge? Of course, every file, every document getting to an office is received, is documented in the file, even if we're in our own small office. So how can a secretary of mine tell me a file is missing in my office without that secretary being sacked? But what do you hear in government offices? They will tell you one file is missing. And the man that was supposed to be responsible for that file is sitting in office. They will tell you that one document got bumped. A whole house got bumped, the documents have gone bumped with it. What happened to electronic documentation of that document? But because they know that once you say the document got bumped or is missing, people will look over it and then you can get away with whatever crime you have committed. That is problem of administration. That is problem of our system. In the United States, whatever you have done 30 years before, for is still documented.
Yeah.
But how do you say it? In Nigeria, where you and I are not even known, you and I don't have an identity. Forget about NIN or whatever. Anything you want to do, they will still tell you to come out from print. That means you and I are not even known as Nigerians. So if you are not even known as the citizen of your country, how can your country hold you accountable? That's why it is easy for people to commit crime and get away with it. They go and change their faces, they change their name, and they still get recycled to be whatever they are not. I got shocked yesterday when somebody, an investigative journalist, made the revelation that the running mate of the flavor in Bayelsa State was an escapee from prison. The question is, when he escaped from prison, when there are no records, look at the years by which he was accused to have escaped from prison and now being recirculated and brought back as deputy governorship candidate of a major political party in a state like Bayelsa. That speaks to our lack of records. That speaks to the fact that people can be anything today and the other thing tomorrow. And the face of that man changed. What the simply did was to change his name. But if we have a record whereby your face is identifiable with your thumbprint, it's identifiable with your voice, and all the records are kept intact, nobody will repackage the criminal for us to come to governance. So it has to do with the administration system. We need to invite a culture whereby records are kept, and anybody found guilty of altering any record is not let free. Sentences are made to pay for those crimes until when there is repercussion for action, this nation will not move forward. It will not be the place of pride that you and I are dreaming of it.
Do you remember, let me just bring us back to, up to speed again. You remember the point at which budget padding issue came under the last administration, and we just heard after one of the lawmakers said he was going to expose the issue of those who did this, who did that. Before we knew it, he was booted out, suspended.
It's back to administration now. It's back to the rest. That's the unfortunate thing, because nobody we seem to forget it so easily. Nigerians will tell you don't commit a crime and run away. 2 years after, nobody will remember anything. That is the kind of problem that we have as a country. But if we have a record that allows security agencies that look, your character, the character you're looking for is back in circulation, people will be mindful of what they do, and they'll be mindful of the kind of character they put up in office. But because we live in a country where there are no repercussions for action, then anybody can do anything and get away with it. So until we begin to imbibe the culture of making every offense punishable, no matter whose ox is God, no matter the height you must have attained, until we get to that level, then this country still have a long way to go.
Comrade Ayalogu, before we allow you to go, there was this story I saw, which is on the pages of the Guardian newspaper this morning, and it says, Akpabio, 13 senators to earn over 5.6 billion naira ex-governor's pension benefits. Looking at what is happening when it comes to pension payment for fathers or mothers out here, some of them cannot afford to get their drugs. They can't afford to eat 3 solid meals. They can't get good clothing, so many things. But looking at this set of people, 13 senators who are ex-governors to pick up 5.6 billion naira ex-governor's pension. Amongst these are also benefits. Where do we go from here?
We are going nowhere. These are a bunch of thieves and lawbreakers. They are not lawmakers. These are lawbreakers. And it's unfortunate that we allow our recruitment system to allow for this kind of characters in governance. The law is clear. You cannot be drawing salaries from the government of this federation in different ways as an individual. The law requires that they make a choice, either to continue to be paid as senators that they are, or as members that they are, or continue to collect pensions and emoluments from their states. But because we have these lawbreakers that is called lawmakers, we have many of them as the greed is their second nature. So they want to be drawing salaries and emoluments and retirement packages from their states, which run into billions of naira. Their vehicles get exchanged every 2 years. They go away with RF, with drivers, with security. They are being given out every 4 years. Their tax being changed every 4 years. Because of their greed, they want to still continue with all those benefits while still drawing salaries and emoluments and allowances as senators of the Federal Republic. Why didn't many of them toe the line of Beggar Daniel of Ogun State, who wrote to the state government that, look, now I am a senator. I'll be drawing salary as a senator. And as such, stop every elements attributable to me as the governor of Ogun State. That is what we call character. But look at these other ones. With due respect, they are lawbreakers. Look at them. They are so much greedy that despite the opportunity that Nigeria has given them, despite how much of benefit they have brought from other nations, you want to be drawing salaries as senator, and at the same time, you want to continue taking emoluments from your state. That speaks to their greed, and that is shenanigans in the highest speed.
Is there a possibility where this can be brought to the lowest ebb or probably eradicated? Is it possible?
We are part of a process within the society that will draw these ones to court. We will challenge them in court, and if possible, see to many of them losing their seat in the Senate for being lawbreakers rather than being lawmakers.
Comrade OLOGUN, it's always a pleasure having you, and we wish you the very best as you, I don't know, maybe it's Abuja or somewhere again this morning. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for joining me. Always, I am most grateful.
Always a delight to be with you.
And that will be the show for today. I'm super excited. The midweek edition of Morning Spring live from Western Spring Television. On behalf of the entire transmission team, my directors, the entire camera team, everybody one way or the other, thank you most sincerely. Tunde IDOWU is my name, at Irresistible TD on Twitter. Let's plug along. I'll see you again tomorrow. Good morning.
Can you imagine the feeling when you get your news as they break with facts and clarity? Our news are reported as it is.
In Africa, and all those who masterminded the way it happened, we have to pay a price.
Enjoy Western programs, projecting culture and tradition to the world. Brought to you as the break and recapped every hour for your update.
You must never forget the sacrifices of the heroes of Nigeria's democracy.
Produced and brought to you in a unique way never before seen.
Western Spring.
Western Spring.
And Western Spring Television. Television is coming home in your color and culture.
Arrested, affected, sound, found. What do we see? What do we say? Flowing from a spring. A fact A to Z. Check and confirm. Ever expounding current events. Traveling down from the business gist to the globally arising happenings, to the sports news, to the bittersweet infos. Guided transmission, even diffusion, vast and fast, detailed facts are fled. Within seconds, nuggets of words that flew across borders are fired. Stories short and long, wrapped in bundles of words, broken and dissected as it is, except misheard. This is the news as it is.
Sports is a culture on its own. It has its own language, its own people, with their own way of life. The world of sports is never void of actions, stories, dramas, and scandals. I guess you need a sports show that can walk the walk and talk the talk.
On this show, we answer all your sporting questions. The whens, the whys, the wheres, and even the what ifs. Sports Spring is that show that will give you that new lease of life you've been looking for in sport journalism. Join me, Joseph Atewe,
And your sports Amazon, Nengi Ernest.
on this station, Western Spring Television, channel 190, only on Star Times.
Let's talk sports. Let's speak the most universal language of the world.